Thank you, gentlemen, for an engaging session. It was indeed very informative and insightful. Let's proceed to our next panel discussion. The automotive industry is no more just confined to building and selling automobiles. Auto businesses must focus on customer expansion and retention, and for that, they have to dwell on their customer experience strategy, be it in car experiences, customer service and support, or online engagements. Auto companies must innovate their CX approach. They must adopt the right technologies, revisit their partner channels, and reinforce their service wing to gain desired business outcomes. To understand this in detail, we have a panel of experts to discuss the topic Drive the Change in Automotive Industry with CX Innovations. For this session, I would like to invite our session chair, Mr. Mark Miller, Head Customer Experience, Wunderman, Thompson, APAC, to introduce our expert panel members. Over to you, Mr. Miller.
Great, thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be on the panel and head this discussion. We have some very talented speakers today that are passionate about customer experience within the automotive sector. They're thinking not just about the customer experiences that are needed in this next year, but also about creating experiences that customers today don't know that they're going to need. Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be your moderator today for this panel. We're very lucky to have some expert speakers that are passionate about customer experience within the automotive sector. They are thinking not just about what the customer experiences are needed in the next year, but also those experiences that customers don't know that they're going to need in the future. In the next hour, we're going to dedicate approximately 45 minutes to cover 3 topics, and then have a Q&A session for the remainder of our time. The 3 topics today that we're going to address are innovating CX through technologies and automation for the auto business. The second topic is unlocking digital CX and moving beyond physical stores. And the third topic is identifying the appropriate metrics to gauge CX. With that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Santosh Iyer. He's the Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Mercedes-Benz India, and he's a member of the local leadership team. He's been associated with Mercedes for a decade and has headed several important functions within the company. Santosh has more than 2 decades of diverse experience in the Indian automobile sector, spreading across sales, marketing, retail, customer service, and corporate affairs. Welcome, Santosh.
Thanks. Hi, Mark. Hi, everybody.
The next panelist is Akshay Singh. He's the Chief Strategy Officer at Droom, India's largest and pioneering online automotive transactional marketplace. In his present role, he is responsible for ideating, overseeing, as well as executing on operational strategies. He's also tasked with optimizing Droom's operating performance and helping the company reach its long-term financial goals. Welcome, Akshay.
Glad to be here.
Great. Our next panelist is Punit Banga. He's the General Manager of Customer Experience and Analytics at Nissan Motor Corporation. He's responsible for developing and managing the overall strategy for customer experience, covering the entire journey from discovery to ownership to repurchase. In addition, he manages the end-to-end e-commerce platform, digital customer journey management, audience segmentation, and attribution modeling. Hello, Punit.
Thank you, Mark. I'm glad to be here.
Great. And lastly, we have Varmaraja. He is the Oracle Customer Experience Lead for the Automotive Industry Solutions. He's based in Santa Clara, California. He has more than 20 years of software project management and strategy experience at Oracle. As the Industry Solution Development Lead for Automotive, Murali helps automotive companies establish a technology strategy to accelerate innovation and lead the future of transportation with Oracle. Hello, Murali.
Hi, Mark. And hello, everyone. Look forward to a wonderful session.
Great. So with that, gentlemen, I want to kick off with the first topic, which is innovating CX through technologies and automation for auto businesses. We want to look at what some of the enablers are. And since this is about technology, I want to pass this to Murali to get his immediate thoughts, given his role and how he's also working with the automotive companies.
Thank you, Mark. I'm Muralidhara Varmaraja, and I lead the automotive industry CX solutions for Oracle. We all know the future of automotive is data and the data-driven experiences and not the vehicle itself, right? Dramatic disruptions is already at the doorstep of automotive industry. But as per McKinsey Insight, proactive automotive companies can survive and thrive in this new normal. by centering themselves around the customer and pursuing new dynamic ways of working or doing businesses with customers on their terms. It's all about strengthening your core and focusing on customer experiences while still capturing new revenue streams from upcoming innovative business models. The automotive companies of the future will provide superior network mobility hubs, experience centers that engage, entertain, and delight customers, and provide an experience that is predictable, compelling, and add value to their daily life. Your focus will be on earning lifelong customers' loyalty, and you will work tirelessly to grow your lifetime value of the customer while implementing operational improvements and digitize the traditional segments. Now let's look at the key enablers as I see for the new normal, correct? There are mainly two. Number one, a complete contextual intelligence platform, and two, an experience delivery platform on top of it. So if you look at the contextual intelligence platform, that platform should activate and monetize data, provide additional value to customers with scale and speed and accuracy that's best in class, most capable and trusted set of capabilities. These contextual intelligence platforms should have, number one, an automotive industry specific data model. So it maintains the relationship between the key entities within the automotive, namely vehicle dealers and consumers, household, all of those entities, and should support flexible APIs and enable you to access this in a scalable role-based fashion, so you can share the data in a respecting the privacies and in a predictable, scalable fashion with your ecosystem. This should also support data orchestration, preferably with no code or low code, so you're able to bring in data from multiple applications into this platform and activate it, correct? And deliver that insight. But this doesn't end there. You should also have a next generation experience delivery platform that support what I call two key capabilities. Number one is the contextual contactless commerce experiences, which include digital sales and marketing, and a predictable service and a predictive service model, which include vehicle usage-based care. We will drill into more details around all of that, and I really look forward to hearing about some of these projects from my panel members too. And I believe that with the capabilities and the work that we are doing with some of the leading automotive manufacturers, I look forward to working with many of you and and share the best practices that we have learned. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Murali. Santosh, do you have some thoughts on that as far as what you're experiencing within Mercedes India?
Yeah, I think Murali made a lot of pertinent points there already. I would just like to expand the scope of the discussion also a bit, because when you talk about MarTech and also using data for better customer experience, particularly in the automotive industry, it's beyond customer data, because today now we have access to vehicle data. All the cars, at least Mercedes-Benz in India, we sell are connected cars. And these cars have a large amount of data which keeps going to the data lake. Then there is a lot of data coming from the apps that our customers are using. And then, of course, at the core of it is the customer service data and stuff. I think the key is what kind of sense you make out of this without intruding into privacy, with full customer consent, because I think that's also a backbone to start communicating and using data. And with that, what value can you give back to the customer? Because he's not interested to be bombarded with messages or offers and stuff. And where I see the industry needs to mature is using MarTech and technologies just for leads, and the entire focus is on generating leads and offers to coming up to the upper funnel marketing, trying to see what can this data give insights to us to be better, give more value to the customer. And that's where the customer experience really changes. The second is, as an industry, we have been conditioned with our dealers, our partners who are front-ending the physical format. So all of us sitting in our headquarters, we look at numbers, we have a certain premise, we also have audience marketplaces, and then we try to do certain topics there. But I think the key would be how the retailer also understands, and a seamless experience between what kind of data, with this wealth of data we have, what value we can give via retailer, and in that true sense, the digital customer experience. I think this is a paradigm shift in automotive now coming up, more so with connected cars, more so also with regulations in place. And a challenge would be using tech and tools to understand and then deploy to enhance customer value.
I would also imagine that all this data is a little bit intimidating, though, for the dealership networks as well, because there's a lot of insights that you can provide them, but what does that require of them to actually access that data? So as a brand, how do you work with your dealerships to help support them so they can actually increase their overall performance as well?
No, you are absolutely right. I think as retailers, their focus is on the lower funnel of marketing. You know, what kind of data can help them get leads, because they are very much focused a bit on sales. But what we do is, for example, we have adapters in our cars now. So we have made our cars even of 2003 connected by adding adapters into our customers' cars. So it gives prompts when a vehicle is ready for service, and this is what did and this prompt. The dealer now doesn't need for the call to come from the customer saying, can I get a service appointment? He can be proactive and call the customer, hey, I have seen it. Of course, all this is based on the consent that we have got from the customer right in the start, but he's able to really call up the customer well in advance, fix up his service appointment. So he doesn't need to rely, and he knows this. So this is one use case where a retailer clearly can using data, using some of the technological tools, he's able to do. The second step is, can we automate it? Because earlier you used to have somebody calling up the customer, and again it's intrusive. So now if you are able to seamlessly make a use case via marketing cloud, via certain other tools on CRM side, get the service appointment done, interact with him via non-intrusive medium, be it WhatsApp, be it any other source with a link. And then the customer has a power to really schedule the right time. And first, they're informing him his car is due for service, which he may have missed. Secondly, he's able to also schedule it at his convenience. So this is a fine example of a retailer being able to use. But the bigger topic of getting consumer insights and using them, I think that needs to happen from the brand. And you cannot expect retailers to use this data and try to do something more.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Akshay, you're coming from a very different perspective just with your business model. So how are you actually using CX, and how are you innovating within Droom structure?
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. So just to set some context, at Droom, we are an online automobile marketplace. And what we do is we enable the end-to-end journey of buying and selling vehicles online, right? So it's a company that is highly focused on building the digital platform and infrastructure that enables that end-to-end digital journey of purchasing automobiles. The second piece of context that is important is our primary target segment is the used vehicle buyer. And when you look at the problem from a used customer's perspective, customer experience is very, very different, right? Because India is a very low trust market. What happens in India is, if I'm looking to buy a used vehicle, I do not know whether the price that is being quoted is right. I do not know whether the condition of the vehicle is what the dealer is saying it to be, right? I do not know if there is any outstanding loan on that vehicle or some police fines that I'll need to pay once I purchase. So at Droom, what we have been doing is focusing on solving some of these trust deficit issues. And because what we believe is that is what is required to accelerate the buying and selling of vehicles, of used vehicles online. So when it comes to customer experience, how are we solving it? The first question is the price that I'm going to pay, is it right or not? Unlike a new vehicle where the pricing is standardized, obviously there are discounts and promotions going on, but the way I explain it is, in a used car, every product is its own SKU, right? A Toyota Corolla 2017, 30,000 kilometers in Delhi would be different from the same kind of vehicle in Bangalore, right? Whether it's in terms of pricing or the condition, how many drivers were there. So what we have done is we help educate the customer in terms of what the market rates or a fair value for these kind of vehicles would be in the market that they are looking for. The second thing we have done is we have created an infrastructure for inspections and unbiased independent inspection that a consumer can use to figure out whether the condition of the vehicle is exactly what they're saying, right? We have our eco product that does it, and we've tied up with many inspectors all over the country, right? That solves this problem. The third thing is our tie-up, through our tie-up with Vahan and government sources and insurance companies, we have a lot of data about the history of a vehicle, right? So whether there are any fines on the vehicle, outstanding loans, whether it's whether it was uninsured, whether there was any major damage, right? So by answering all of these questions in the mind of the consumer, what we are trying to do is make the digital journey, make internet a much more safer place to do a transaction of used vehicles. One more thing, which is very, very important when it comes to online channels. So at Droom, we don't carry our own inventory. Instead, we tie up with OEMs and dealers all over the country. Now, what that allows us to do is give the end customer a huge amount of choice, right? So, I can apply number of filters and get the exact vehicle that I am willing to, that I'm looking for. And this is very, very different from, me walking into a dealership where the number of vehicles available are limited, right? Maybe the color may not be there, maybe the options like a sunroof, etc., may not be there for the test drive, right? So that's the other piece we are trying to address through having a digital platform, which is having an assortment which caters to all individuals' tastes and needs. So, those were just the starting comments. I'll pass it back to you, Mark, but we can talk about this.
Thank you. Punit, I'd like to get your inputs as well as how Nissan is using CX to innovate the customer experience.
Thank you, Mark. I'll stick to the 2 points that we kind of set the context with. So basically, when we are talking about this contextual customer intelligence, the customer today, like Santosh also mentioned, is not constrained by one channel or one touch point. They are jumping across different touch points. They may start their journey with a simple email or a digital display. Jump onto WhatsApp, come to my website, go to the configurator, go to aggregator website. And by that time they land up at a dealership, when they are almost 80% into their decision, they are more equipped than actually a sales consultant with respect to the product that they're looking to buy. So that is the biggest challenge we are facing right now. So we have solved the digital part of the challenge, where we have rolled out enough and more solutions for the customer to understand the product, compare, evaluate, experience, whether it is a virtual test drive, virtual showroom, or the configurators at a variant level, accessories, everything is there for the customer to consume. But the purchase is not going to happen on my platform. It is going to happen at the dealership. And that's where the experience breaks. Because the moment they land up at the dealership is not able to put that context on the transaction, and they just start again from the start. And that's where the customers get frustrated.
Is that because the dealership doesn't have that data, or it's just, what are some of the key blockers there? And maybe I asked too much of a loaded question.
It's a very thin line. Look, we would want all this data to be available with the sales consultant, for the sales consultant to take this conversation forward. And we know that technology, it is not impossible technologically, and most of the car companies are working towards that. And if I can borrow from the Chinese, the new retail is about progressing with the customer in their journey without actually intruding in their personal space. I think that's where the balance has to be maintained, and that's what we are trying to do. Not to become a nuisance in customers' life, because giving this data to sales consultant, they are not mature enough to use this data with discretion, and that's where you just can't start throwing data into the channel, and because some of these customers will then come back, and then your whole intention of giving good experience may turn upside down. and you may create another monster there.
Okay.
Not to talk about the debate, the ongoing debate on the data privacy that is going on across the globe right now.
Okay.
So yes, we are trying, but with measured steps.
Okay, great. I now want to move to the second topic here, and it's really unlocking digital CX and moving beyond the physical stores, looking at what the business outcomes are as well as the customer outcomes, because I imagine, you know, this last year where we've all been under lockdown, the acceleration of experiences and the expectations and what that means. And I'm sure within the automotive business, you are finding out a lot. So can you each talk about how you're thinking about what that physical experience looks like, as well as how you believe it might evolve? So I'm gonna throw it to Santosh.
Yeah, Mark. I think there's a famous saying, "Never let a good crisis go waste." And last year, I think that was the best time for us to really use the crisis for digital transformation among the dealer network and the retail network. So we came up with online store. This is an e-commerce aggregator platform that we came in, and in the normal years, we would have seen a resistance from retailers. How do the digital experience happens? But thanks to, I would say, the crisis last year, the adoption was quite quick. Just to give you some numbers, today 15% of my sales happens online. And just to imagine that a Mercedes-Benz car, which is a super luxury product in India, to be sold online was unfathomable. Within internally, we had stakeholders challenging us. But I think we have seen the results, and we are going strength to strength. One of the key aspects here, and we learned through the way. For example, a customer would like when he's doing this, when we have taken him from the upper funnel to the lower funnel, he's then coming and seeing the car now he's going to purchase. The first step was transparency. So we were bold enough to put our VIN number of the car, the full transaction price, on-road price of the car, completely transparent. To get the retailers on board, we didn't do a company platform, because that's where they feel now the brand tries to sell directly. So we just created an e-commerce platform where each dealer has his own store, and he's able to put his inventory, put his offer, give specific offers on that inventory platform. The third, we also spoke to them, and when we saw customer traffic coming at odd times, for example, say at 9 o'clock in the night, you saw surge in searches, and in the e-commerce platform, our dealer staff said, yes, we will be available even at till 10 o'clock in the night for a shift from an online experience to a digital experience, wherein they used to use and connect virtually, get some clarification, be it color, is this the best discount? In fact, we also were able to get our consultant send a special link to the customer, saying, yeah, this is an offer now for you for today, and would you like to book online? And these are some of the triggers where we were able to beautifully merge the online and the offline world well. What is the outcome? Why should this happen? And today our investors, partners, they realize that the cost of retail can come down. There's a very big business aspect of being digital, because you may not need such a big network. You may not, as OEMs, we always pushed in making newer showrooms. But today, if your online can complement your physical presence, then we may not need so much of reach, and we can have a very good hybrid method where, yes, in a city, I may have 2 showrooms, but then balance is taken care by the online presence. So I think it's a lot of possibilities. We are still just in the starting point of this curve. There is a learning almost every day, every week. How do we create the demand? What can we do? How tech tools can be enabled? But again, I think there has been some discussions on the retail side. Time and again, Mark, you have been trying to point. We have to make it simple there. You should go with a solution using MarTech, using all the tools. I think the execution will falter. So for us, the entire digital platform, or whatever we have been trying to do with e-commerce, is taking the retailer on board with us, giving them an independent space, providing the customer the transparency, and I think make it a simple solution in a couple of clicks. Book your car, get this down payment in, and of course, then the balance transaction can go offline, because you have financing options, you have other topics there, and even the finance industry is evolving. Now we can see even our partners, we can give an online credit approval, etc., which was not the case a couple of months or weeks back. So it's an evolving industry, and I think the best has just begun for the digital format.
Great, thank you. Obviously, personalization is a huge component of this. So, Murali, what is your experience at Oracle working with the various different auto brands and how they're trying to achieve this personalization with their customer experiences?
Thank you, Bar. And I wanted to actually highlight, some of the concepts that we discussed around the need of this personalization, correct? So starting with my son, different people in the houses have different needs. He just turned 18 and he wanted a car. And, he did all the research, everything. I just have to go and sign the papers. So I think that's going to be the future. Believe me, someone else, that can happen. It's not rocket science. I mean, that's the confidence that we are giving to the OEMs and the companies. Okay? You're not here alone. We have the best practices that we have learned from other companies and other industries that we can apply. We have the foundational capability available. So you're not starting from scratch. You don't have to reinvent all of this. Starting with the automotive specific, data models that support that scalable. Because we're talking about personalizing to 1 billion people. You want a platform that scale. So we have the platform that scale. That's the number one requirement, so that you don't have to custom build. That's a huge benefit. And then on top of that, adding industry specific or even brand specific algorithms, correct? So the algorithms are not generic algorithms or like, hardwired rules, but those algorithms are tailored, can be tailored, is specific for automotive. That is huge. Those are the learnings that I've realized, is that confidence that we can give to these customers, that these are the things that they will get, correct? And these are the best practices and the industry specific data models, APIs, algorithms to drive that personalization. I think that's huge, and that I think having data in our DNA, that we are able to bring that to the market, and specifically for automotive, that's huge.
Great, thank you. Punit, obviously service is a huge component of the customer experience. And so how has Nissan gone about personalizing or customizing those experiences beyond just perhaps the reminders of service appointments? Are there some things that you all are doing which have really driven value and created more of that tighter customer affinity and loyalty?
Of course, this is an evolving field, because the more data you get, the more opportunity you have to put additional value on the table for the customer. But what we internally follow is the basic principle of right messaging to the right person at the right time. So even for the ownership experience, we are not sending them these generic messages saying, okay, my Happy for Nissan is on, so you get 4% discount on your third service or something like that. We are looking at data from multiple sources. We are looking at the behavior of the customer, the service history of the car, the data that is coming from the car itself, and then only we are kind of giving the personalized message to the customer to say, okay, your car is ready for service, so you want us to pick it up. The idea is to not let customer think about the servicing at all. Servicing is something which should become OEM's responsibility. The car should just, it's a service, it should just run. The owner should not bother about, oh, my oil has to be changed, or my gearbox is not working properly. They just send a message and it gets attended to. We are not there yet, but we are getting there. But I think there are 3 levels of personalization that you look at. Obviously, at the ownership level, yes, it's a lot easier because the data is cleaner and you have easy access to your customers. But in terms of the in-car services, that is where I think the bigger problem is to be solved. Because how do I make the car as an integral part of your life is what we are working with. That if we know that every day you go to a Starbucks and you have your coffee, how do I bring that into your in-car experience, that the car tells you or car knows, and then it adds more value to that? For example, my loyalty program, can that integrate with that and offer you a coupon? I don't know, that's a very crude example. But something like that, can we go into that direction? Can I reward you, for example, for your good driving behavior? Because today the car is actually measuring that driving behavior. But I tell you, the real challenge in the industry is, so that can still be managed. The real challenge is, how do I personalize the car for you? because that's where you want to go. Because once you go there, it's a true game changer for the customers to get excited and the product itself. My own style statement, as probably a Zara equivalent of in the automotive world, trendy, latest, affordable, not 3-year, 5-year product development cycles. I think that's when the real change will happen. But in the meantime, we are actually working on these two areas of ownership as well as in-car experience to enhance that and keep them loyal with the brand.
Great, thank you. Akshay, you talked earlier about one of the things that your company does is all about trust. And so I think that's important as far as simplifying the purchase process. So you clearly have had to address some issues there. What type of tools have you used? And since you don't carry your own inventory, what does that look like as far as the engagement with the end customers?
And maybe I'll break down the digital customer experience into two pieces, right? One is related to the purchase process, and the second part, which is the delivery process, which traditionally happens offline. In fact, Punit mentioned that for Nissan it's still primarily offline, although Santosh mentioned that some of that has started happening online for them as well, right? So when it comes to the discovery or the purchase phase, right, we see two types of, at the highest level, we see two types of customer personas, right? There is customer A who knows exactly what they're looking for, right? And they will go look for that specific car, right? And for that type of customer, a search, find, buy, an Amazon kind of experience works very well, right? Where they know a lot about vehicles, they know what the pricing should be, and they just go ahead and purchase it. These customers also tend to be more digital savvy. So for example, in Santosh's case, they would fall in the 15% bracket, right? They're not afraid of completing the entire journey online. Now, the second type of customer is not really sure, right? And here, the point Punit made around consultative sales experience becomes more important. If I am someone who's just looking for a vehicle to get me from point A to B, and I know that I'll drive it for, let's say, 50 kilometers a week, right? And for me, a medium-sized car with good mileage is important. Maybe the make or model is not as important. Maybe I am open to looking for advice or direction from my sales consultant. So the way we look at these customers is the experience they want is very, very different. It's not an Amazon kind of an experience. It's to give a parallel from India, it's more like a matrimonial kind of an experience where you have put your requirements, and then you're looking for the best matches for you, right? Mm-hmm. And then you evaluate those matches, and based on those matches you shortlist one, right? So there's no like one size, there's no perfect match, but based on like 4 or 5 matches, you will be able to get to something that meets your requirements, right? And for this kind of a customer, the journey is very, very different. It's not an Amazon kind of an approach, but more of a matrimonial or Tinder kind of an approach, right? So that's another experience that we are building, right? And I think for a platform like ours, which is agnostic of brand, it's more important to have that kind of an experience. Now, the second part is, okay, once someone online has decided that they want to buy a vehicle and they're paid for it, how do we ensure that the entire transaction happens online? How do we move the traditionally offline touch points online? So especially last year, right, what we saw was a huge demand for a doorstep test drive and doorstep delivery. Now, there's a step change when it comes to consumer behavior. People are more and more willing to, make even large purchases without, and pay the money upfront without, seeing it, right? So the delivery happens, they test it for a few days, and then, if everything goes fine, they make the complete purchase. If they don't like it, then they can return it. Now, these kind of models, they're becoming more and more popular in the West, in the more developed economies. Our hypothesis is they will become even more popular in India as well. In just to give you some examples, for example, in the US, even the most expensive purchase, like a home, is now being done completely online through platforms like Zillow or OpenDoor, right? And we expect that kind of transformation to happen in India as well. And to do that, we are investing in things like doorstep test drive, doorstep delivery, full escrow payment, and online RTO kind of paperwork. So yeah, those were my 2 comments.
Great, thank you. So we've covered over these 2 topics a lot of very, very important things, the necessity for data, personalization, expectations, both dealership and customer expectations. But I want to now shift us to the last topic, and it's really, how do we identify the right or appropriate metrics to actually gauge, does this work? As well as how we need to shift things over time. So Santosh, I want to take it back to you because I was really impressed and a little bit shocked by the 15% sales figure for a luxury vehicle. So obviously you all are doing something and it's going quite well. So can you elaborate a little bit more about how you're looking at judging or setting up the metrics about how you are changing the customer experience?
It's quite interesting because if you see the overall industry setup on the KPI, the strength of digital is measurability. So then we tend to measure everything that digital starts doing. And then the entire focus is generally on the lower funnel. What leads to conversion, cost per lead, cost per acquisition. And there are, you have all the kinds of tools available in the market. You can try to slice that data. And there is a lot of marketing dollars spent on that lower funnel marketing. And that's what we call performance marketing. And I think as marketeers, we have too much, dealers are pushed on those leads. We are all there. But I think the world is changing. What Muralidhara explained also with personalization, the usage at the top end of the funnel, how are you able to influence? Because you just don't need to spend these dollars on the lower end of the funnel to get that lead. How can you use digital to, first of all, get him in the upper funnel, as he said, his kid's example that he's doing his research. And at that point, it's not important to get the data, when he has decided to purchase the car. And then I transact him on my e-commerce platform. It's so important to get the data when he's researching the car or she is researching the car online. And what can we do in personalization? What he or she is looking at, what kind of a car, and what are their key trigger points? Are they considering competition? Are they considering cost of ownership to be the major factor, or style is a major element? And can I really give that seamless experience? If they have clicked in my website the red car, and they have gone into the details there, can I then continue that experience with the red car wherever he or she is going in at the upper end of the funnel? I think this is where we need a radical shift when we look at marketeers, personalization and stuff, because there's a huge push on the lower end, leads, metrics as KPIs, and us, the agencies, and everybody is totally focused on many of these topics. And I think that's where the industry also, I see changing, and a lot of right things happening. There are tools available, technologies available to influence that consumer behavior, or at least give a consumer a better experience, or a prospect a better experience when he's searching for cars online. So that's my take on this topic. In terms of measurability, of course, the traditional metrics cannot go away. Right from the cost per lead to the engagement to the bounce rate to all that. I think that's all a given and a hygiene if you are in this business. But we need to go beyond it to make it really work much more intelligently and much more cost effectively.
Right. Have you implemented specific CX metrics within your process in addition to the more traditional ones?
To start with, we set up an organization itself. We have now the marketing department, we changed it and we set up a CX organization, which has a cross-functional role from sales, customer service, our own financial colleagues, partners, so that you have one view of the customer to start with, because the CX cannot happen if you don't have the, otherwise it's all siloed approach when you look at customer data or when you look at the customer. So that's the starting point to set up the organization. Second is, of course, what kind of a metrics you can put in. We have those KPIs in place. We are still working on them. there are measurement tools there are 360-degree measurement tools which actually measure the omni-channel experience of the customer online, offline. And we cannot dictate the journey. We cannot say that now at this stage at test drive, he comes to me and then he goes back, because the need for a test drive, I think Akshay mentioned this, itself is not as much as it was in the past for cars. Especially in our segment, our customers have driven these cars in the US or in Europe. They know about the car, they now want the product. And maybe, some of them want the test drive, some of them are native luxury dwellers, they just want to buy this car now. So what kind of an experience can we give? So we have to also challenge the conventional model that a car can only be bought this fashion. And then we have to map this, and then those metrics are different in the upper funnel, etc. Of course, I cannot share all the KPIs as such because it's a proprietary internally. We are also working, and I think the team really puts a lot of work trying to better this. But this success that we have seen in the space is a mixture of all that we have been trying to do, but a lot needs to be still done. That's why I shared that I think the focus has to shift from the traditional metrics to more also the CX metrics, because that really can help brands to be more successful.
Great, thank you. Punit, I want to focus on you a little bit because you're looking at the entire digital experience end to end. So you've clearly got some insights on where in the journey there might be more important factors. It's not just necessarily upper funnel or lower funnel. So how do you look at that at Nissan?
So I agree with what Santosh mentioned, that the more focus is now on the upper funnel. And from a brand like Nissan in India, because we are a very, very small player and we are not, for example, Mercedes, which has a very long heritage of being in India and have that kind of brand resilience. So for us, the most important thing is that my discoverability is very good, because that's when someone is looking for Nissan or a Nissan Magnite, I cannot allow that person to go to an aggregator or a competition. That's where our primary focus for last 2 years has been to improve that discoverability for the brand as well as for channel partners, to make sure that we are at least able to take the high intent traffic into the right place. And then to ensure that this audience which is high intent, which is coming into my platform is managed well. And we have taken a lot of, like Santosh mentioned, there are so many tools which you can use to see what the users are doing on your platform, how they're interacting with the tools, how they're interacting with the product assets, and then find the most optimal way to actually talk to them. And as a proof point, with the recent launch, we have seen that my bounce rates have actually gone down by 10 percentage points. And in a launch scenario of a mass market car, that's kind of unheard of, at least from our own benchmarks within Nissan. And what we have also realized is that the customer is more ready to buy online than we are giving credit to the customer for. So we took up a challenge of having 6% of our bookings coming from online channel. And we were surprised by the customers, because we got more than almost 12% of these bookings coming through pure online channel, people actually paying the money without looking at the car. And I completely agree with Santosh when he says that the need for test drive has actually gone down. We got almost 30% of our bookings without anyone actually seeing the physical car. So that is unheard of. Most of our campaign actually happened during the peak of the pandemic, but still customers really entrusted us and booked the car with us, and we haven't seen any cancellations. It's been more than 2 months now. Customers are now walking into the showrooms, also doing test drives as well, but it's intact. That funnel is intact. So yes, you have to build it well. You have to focus less on the quantity, more on the quality, being relevant, going to the relevant audience, improve the experience on where you are bringing the customer to, and make sure that experience is consistently managed across the life cycle of the purchase and even into the ownership. And we have obviously process metrics. We have metrics where we are looking at conversion from qualified visit to lead to qualified lead to eventual booking.
Right.
But all that is, you will see the progress as you look at the right tools, and technology is playing a huge role. In fact, our CRM and DMS are based on Oracle's technology, and it has evolved in the last few years considerably to help support that kind of analytics on the back end.
That's great. Murali, I actually want to check in with you because obviously you're having a lot of conversations with the various auto brands outside of obviously conversion and quality leads, et cetera. What are the other things that they're looking at when you have conversations with them? Are there some new things that are popping out, or is there more a different prioritization of the metrics and KPIs that might be coming up in conversations that you have?
I've actually had the privilege of interacting with many customers across different continents, so it changes. But the trend that I see is that one of the biggest challenges, how do you get closer to an end customer, right? It's like, I think, my wife bought a Tesla. We never talked to Tesla for like 4 years, right? I think it's a great product, but we don't have no brand relationship. That is dangerous. I think I invested so much in the company. If I invested more in the stocks, I probably would have made more money. But that's kind of the take. You're like you have to invest in the brand. Like if you look at your phone, you're invested in your phone brand. This is part of your daily life, and that's what it's going to be. Automotive, correct? In the future, it's going to be part of your daily life. It's going to add value, but you have to get closer to your customers, know the person, and enable that. So that I think is the biggest challenge. And these automotive companies think they have to custom build, they have to build everything. So what we are telling them is that, no, you don't have to. You can start, there is a starting point, that's available. You can enable these I think Punit and even everyone else in the team, you have to be focused. And even there was a good question on there, which says, how do you prioritize your project? You put customers at the center, or at the beginning, and work backwards towards technology and say, what are the things I need to deliver that delightful experience? What are the technologies I need? Correct? That will help you prioritize. And that's what I think I'm talking to these customers. That's what I'm telling them, is to focus on those digital engagements. The more digital engagements you have with your customer, the more they give you more data. The data is the key. You have the data, the more you can personalize, you can deliver that experience, and that's going to be the future. And I see the future in 3 phases for automotive companies, correct? Number 1 is this, how to be a world leader in customer experience. Number 2 is how do you transition into this EV world, electrical, world. And and the third, which is actually catching up very fast, how do you live with an autonomous vehicle? So I think you better start, building and mastering these digital engagements and having the platform to be ready for all of that. So that's what my message to our automotive. It's very well received, and I'm getting great feedback. They all have, these projects going on. I'm really excited. What we're hearing here also validate that basic, idea.
Great. Akshay, I imagine that when you're looking at your customer engagements, obviously NPS and customer lifetime value are pretty critical to that because you don't have your own inventory. Are there other things, or how do you evaluate ultimately your efforts?
Sure. Our business is primarily a digital online, marketplace kind of a business. So a lot of the metrics that we look at are it would be similar to, let's say, a company like Amazon or Flipkart in India, right? So for us, apart from leads, the overall traffic is also important. Then the conversion from traffic to orders is something that we keep track of very, very closely. And one common theme that is coming out is how digital adoption is increasing in this space. And we have seen that in our numbers as well, where the traffic to order ratio has increased 2.3x over the last 1 year, which is a huge, huge change, right? And it's a reflection of how consumers are evolving in India. Apart from that, obviously, there are the standard metrics around NPS and CSAT. We want to keep our customers happy so that they can bring the next set of customers. But one point I want to make here is the way to really use these metrics and to uncover value by these metrics is to look at it in the by breaking and slicing and dicing the data into the second and third levels. So just to give you an example, right? Even if at an overall India level we are doing fine, the minute we go down to the city level and even within the city, the micro market level, we are very quickly able to see, the imbalances in the supply versus demand, the traffic that is coming in versus the supply or the inventory we have. And that's one of the things we need to solve for to, generate additional value from the platform. Similarly, at an overall dealer level, like in most things in life, everything follows a power curve, right? A Pareto principle. So when it comes to dealer engagement and keeping the dealers happy and engaged on the platform, getting more inventory from them, what we follow is looking at the dealers from different cohorts perspective. It could be in terms of age, it could be in terms of what kind of vehicles they sell, right? Two-wheelers or four-wheelers, new versus used. It could be in terms of which city they are in. And then what we try to do is promote one cohort to the next higher value adding cohort and keep that chain going, right? So that the overall platform over time is generating more and more value, not just for the customers, but for the dealers as well, right? So the main point I'm trying to make is, apart from just looking at, let's say, a few broad metrics, it's very important to break those metrics down into the L2 and L3, because that's where the real insight comes in. That's where the actionable insights come in for the business to take things to the next level.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm conscious of time, and we wanted to leave opportunity for Q&A. So if anybody who's participating has questions, you can type them in the chat window. Otherwise, we'll continue on with a couple of other additional topics that we've got. So let me look at my notes here real quickly. I'm curious to find out how much of your CX efforts are really looking at the dealership's employees as well, because it is definitely a B2B to C model, and the employees within dealerships are certainly critical to that customer experience. And so it's not just necessarily that brand communication to the dealership. So what are you all looking at as far as supporting the dealership's employees, since they are really the brand ambassador, that first touch for all the customers?
The question is quite valid, because finally that's where the customer interacts with the brand. One on the online space and the physical space, there can be a very large infrastructure, but the entire brand promise can go for a toss the moment he meets with the sales consultants. And I think Punit also briefly touched upon it in his opening remarks there. So, but for us, training, development and all these are part of it. In terms of trying to see how can we also bring them on board, how do they also realize. But frankly, this topic has to be addressed first at the leadership level of our dealerships, because if the CEO of the dealership really realizes that a seamless customer experience is important, then they drive it. Unfortunately, at the retail level, the attrition is also quite high. The good part about India automotive retail now is it's also getting professionalized, like the US, like other developing markets. Now in our dealerships, we have a professional CEO, we have head of sales, we have teams. Now you have good management graduates joining the dealership, even at the sales level, consultant level, which I never saw this even 3 years back. So I think it's changing with the right quality of people who are trainable, because you can deploy trainings and all these programs only when you have a trainable material also. So in that sense, I think the dealerships have realized it for their own survival, for their own future, that they need a better skilled staff. So right from recruitment, then of course interventions from our side, their leadership believing in the entire CX philosophy. I think that's a journey that we have all set in. It takes time. You can do interventions, but it takes time from a cultural shift also to look into this. So from a distribution model to a customer experience model, I think it takes some time, but we will get there also
That's really interesting. I'm also curious, and Punit, this is for you as well, since you're dealing with the end customer directly. How much feedback loop are you building in and getting so it comes directly from the customer up through their employees and the dealerships, et cetera, back to you? And how are you integrating or ingesting that data within your data lakes, or then creating more insights and being able to pump that back out to your dealerships?
Sure. Maybe I can go first. Since we are a marketplace platform and we are trying to solve for the issue around trust, the trustworthiness of a dealer is also very, very important for the success of the platform. So one of the ways we do it is post every purchase, the end customer has the ability to rate a seller, right? At the highest level, it's a rating out of 5, and it has sub ratings along a number of parameters. And what happens on the platform is, based on these ratings over time, some sellers get preference in terms of their visibility on the platform, whereas others who are not performing well kind of get lower preference when it comes to the search results. And then we have targeted dealer programs, training sessions that are looking at the lower performing dealers and giving them some guidance on how they can improve their customer experience. Because I would say our challenge is slightly more complex than Santosh or Punit, for example. A lot of the dealers in the used car space, they are still, they could be not as educated, or they could not be, they may not speak English, or those kind of issues, right? So we have to cater to many different sets of dealers, but through the use of technology, rating and reviews, and then the dealer training program, we try to address it.
Great, thank you.
So, for us, that's a very, very big challenge, because of late we haven't really been selling a lot of cars. So we had such huge attrition in the network that with the new brands coming in, new competition coming in, and we had to find something out of the box to actually tackle this. See, one thing that Santosh talked about is the org structure itself, because if you have the right structure in place, you will have the right feedback mechanism also working through the ranks. But in absence of that, you have to find something which is more informal. So even though we are structured for across the function customer experience, but it is still not there. We are still evolving. And that's where you have to actually make sure you visit the dealerships, you talk to the sales heads, you talk to the ASNs, you get their feedback, and continuously evolve. So whenever the zonal heads are here, I make sure that I sit with them for at least a couple of hours, have coffee, maybe have lunch, understand what is going on, because what we are thinking at a head office level, by the time it hits the dealership, it's like chalk and cheese. So you have to keep those informal feedback loops open, have that softer elements enabled, but at the same time, you have to use technology to make sure that it is just a validation point, right? Because it is a challenge, because the education levels vary, the expertise levels vary, and the intent from the dealer partners also vary between different market types. And how do you drive transparency in such a situation? And that is where, like Santosh said, and also I think Akshay alluded to, that transparency is very, very critical. And that's what, as a brand, we are also trying to bring through our online platforms, to make sure that the customer has 3 issues with the offline part of the journey. One, the offer I see at the brand website is not there with the dealership. Dealership is talking a different language. So how do I solve for that? The ex-showroom to on-road price, how do I solve for that? How do I give the customer a transparent and convenient deal on the existing car? Because the online platform will say something, and then by the time the customer hits the dealership, it is entirely different. What kind of finance options I have? So all of that, actually, you have to keep listening to these sales consultants and the sales team to understand where can you fine tune, how do you make your whatever you're offering to the customer through a brand more refined, sophisticated, convenient, and transparent. So that's where the whole effort today is going.
It sounds like it's moving from just not knowing them, but understanding them and anticipating
Absolutely.
what their needs would be. You brought up a very good point, which ties back to something Murali said earlier, is technology as a support. Technology doesn't necessarily drive what needs to be done. So I think that's an interesting component. Conscious, we've got about 6 minutes left. So any last inputs or thoughts? Put your future hat on of where you think things are going to go as far as how CX is going to evolve within the automotive industry. And I'll go ahead and start with the way I introduced you also, Santosh, if you want to take it away, that would be great.
I think when Muralidhara mentioned that, that number one priority starts from customer experience, and of course, there is a product side of it with EVs and autonomous. But I think customer experience should also not be limited from the digital side. I am a strong proponent of a phygital concept always, and how digital can really help the physical form. That's where the seamlessness comes in, and the omni-channel is key in all this. So I think in the next couple of years, brands which master the real omni-channel experience in a seamless fashion, and not only at the time of sale, but even right from pre-sale, sales, and post-sales. I think those are the brands which, apart from the product offerings, I think the key success for brands would be the customer experience to be offered on in a complete omni-channel across all platforms, and seamless and personalized also. So I think that's the future in my view.
Great. Akshay?
Yeah, and I will take Santosh's comments one step further. Phygital is important in the current age, but we do expect that more and more customers would be comfortable with the entire end-to-end journey being digital, where you're not even leaving the comfort of your home. You can be browsing for vehicles at, let's say, 12 midnight or 1 a.m. in the night when the physical centers are not open. And the real challenge for all of us to work on is how do we, at the last mile of the journey, which traditionally has always been, physical, how do we enable that to be fully digital?
Great. Punit?
I'll take that one step forward. So, see, the way I visualize in 3 years to 5 years time period, we will not have a car in the showroom. What we will have is we'll have the elements that the customer needs to experience. So I have three options of the seating. So you'll have 3 different seating options where the customer can go and sit and experience, okay, this works for me. I have 2 different or 3 different sound option, entertainment options, touch screen. So to the point where we come to the car only when you have to test drive it, when you have to experience the drive. But to help me personalize at a level that really matters to me is what the customer is looking for. And this we have been hearing from customers. We have been understanding their unmet needs, so to speak, where they're saying, okay, why can we not become IKEA? Where you just go and experience what you want to experience. And because today, if you walk into a dealership, you will never see the variant you want to buy. You will never see the color you want to buy. They will have a demo car, maybe 2 if you're lucky, and then they will have a yard which is 10 kilometers off the city, and you say, okay, we can show you that, but who's interested in that? So it has to become more immersive. It has to become more relevant. The sales consultants have to basically become very, very tied into the digital process. So we foresee a future where even at the dealership, the journey for the customer will be the same as it is on a digital channel. So if a sales consultant is looking at cars for you, then it will go through the same platform. So there is one single journey, one source of truth. That's how we foresee this in the near future.
Great. Murali, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with almost all the statements, and I think it's very difficult to predict the future, but I do see trends. I talked to my mom, she's 80 plus, she started using, WhatsApp 80 plus. I mean, that's what is brought into this world, right? People are more and more in front of, their devices, and they're digitally immersed in their lifestyle. We as a brand, you have to fit into that. Otherwise, there's no relevancy for you. That's what is going to happen, correct? So as a brand, how can you engage with that person, and how can you fit into their lifestyle? And it's almost like contextually engage and identify, predict, and serve. Correct? That's going to be the key. If you're able to do that effectively, that will become your compelling differentiator. And everything else I already said, the transition into EV and moving into autonomous, that's all like, it's all aligning. It's all with an objective to help the end customer, correct? Deliver that differentiated experience. And I think I see that happening, and I see that people are going to develop this persona-based driving experiences. When I see a milkman in a two-wheeler, taking his wife in the two-wheeler, I would think, why can't he have that different experience, just one day a week where he want to go to the temple or wherever, that I think, your automotive company should be able to support that, give that differentiated experience, persona-based driving experiences, right? With shareable and all the things that's aligned, it is possible now to deliver that and fit into the digital lifestyle. And I think that trend will only increase, even in all markets, including India. That's my humble opinion.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your participation in this panel. Hopefully the audience got a lot of good nuggets out of this. I mean, each of you have fantastic views, and what you're doing is obviously customer first, customer focused. So, that's where we all need to be. So thank you very much.